All right, so what we are going to start learning about now as our last lesson from Unit 4 is what a quadratic is. It is anything that follows the same pattern that we have been talking about this entire time. So we are going to learn some features of them. This is always going to look on a graph something like this. Kind of looks like a U. This is specifically what we call a parabola or a quadratic. So we're going to learn how to identify the features of those now that we've learned how to factor the equation of them. So we have a couple different features that we're going to specify. The first one is the vertex. This is the point at which the parabola changes from decreasing to increasing or vice versa. It's essentially the maximum or minimum point that we have. So if we look on any graph that's a parabola, which this one is an example, I'm just going to outline that so you can kind of see the shape a little bit more. There is no maximum because these arrows mean it goes on indefinitely. There is a minimum point right here at 2. So our vertex is 2, -2. And it's going to be a specific point. Our second point that we talk about is the axis of symmetry, which is any vertical line that passes through the vertex. Because if I take a look and I draw my vertical line right here through my vertex, right in the middle, I'm just going to shift it. That is my axis of symmetry. It is symmetrical across this point. If I take a look then at some other ones, I have an optimum value is the next point that we talk about. Which is the greatest or least y value on the graph. So if I take a look right here, that is going to be -2, which is part of our vertex. And then if I look at the next one, I have the x-intercepts. Unlike in a line graph where there would only be one of these, in a quadratic graph, there can be 2. So there is always 2 points, or it's always just the number of points at which the parabola crosses the x-axis. This is generally always 2 points. And these are often referred to as the roots or 0. Sometimes there is 0 points. Sorry, so it's not generally always 2. There can be two points if it starts below. There is 1 point if vertex is on the x-axis, and this is below the x-axis. And there is 0 points if it starts above the x-axis. Essentially, if I take a look at that on a graph, it starts up here, there's no x-intercepts. If it starts right here, there's 1 x-intercept. And if it starts down here, there's 2 x-intercepts. So we're going to state all those points for a couple different graphs just to get used to that. If I look at the coordinate of the vertex, it's going to be this point right here as it goes from increasing to decreasing, which is 9 on my y-axis and 4 on my x-axis. So I get the value of 4, 9. My axis of symmetry is going to be right here. And this is going to be when x is equal to 4. If I take a look, I'm going to try to identify its maximum or minimum value. In this case, it's going to be the y value of our vertex. So this is going to be 9, and in this case, it's a maximum value because it is pointing down. My y-intercept on this one, if I take a look, there's only one, and that is -7. But I do have two x-intercepts right here and right here of 1 and 7. If I take a look at the second graph, I can see that I have a coordinate vertex here. This would be about a 1. So the coordinates of my vertex are 2, -1. My axis of symmetry is through here, where x is equal to 2. The maximum and minimum value is going to be the same y coordinate as my vertex. So that will be -1. My y-intercept, I only have 1 right here, which is at about 6. And I have 2 x-intercepts of 1 and 3. If I take a look at the next example, I can see that I have my vertex is at 0, 0, because it's right at my origin, which means my axis of symmetry is just my y-axis, which is where x is equal to 0. I have a minimum value here. Sorry, that should be minimum as well. Minimum value of 0. My y-intercept is just 0 because it's at the point that it crosses. And my x-intercept is 1 point at 0, 0. So again, my origin. So there's going to be 2 Desmos added up for this lesson, and that is going to be everything for this unit of 2 truths and a lie and polygraph parabolas. Both of them will be linked in D2L.